What does this say about the rest of government policy? That simply when something difficult comes along, when something that might be unpopular, and earlier enough the Prime Minister has said that she's willing to be unpopular, is that all melting away? Is this going to be what the government does whenever there's the slightest bit of opposition?
No, I don't think so. But I think the government is a government that listens. It's taken the temperature, and it's we are a democracy and we're a parliamentary democracy. So listening both to the public and of course to members of Parliament is very important. That's what they've done. This had become a distraction from what is a really good plan. There are many bits of this plan that haven't even been reported in the last week and a half. I was with a group of SMEs yesterday, and when I drew their attention to the annual investment allowance being increased to £1 million, they were really delighted by that. It'll help SMEs, small businesses across the UK invest in our country's future, but that measure hasn't even been reported. If you look at what the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry, the Federation of Small Businesses and the British Chambers of Commerce have been saying, they've welcomed this growth plan. What we now need to do is get on and implement it to make sure that people's wages can increase, and of course it contains tax cuts for everybody. It contains tax cuts for all 30 million of the United Kingdom's working people, which is really important.
But on this 45p rate, I believe we can have a look at what the Institute for Fiscal Studies said about it last week after the growth plan was published. They said this measure could be revenue neutral. Cutting this rate of tax might not cost the country a penny, indeed could help grow the economy, could grow the tax base, could help make everyone better off. What's the point in the Conservative Party if it can't deliver tax cuts that could make people better off?
Well, you've made the point about the importance of tax cuts to make people better off, and of course also to stimulate economic growth. And as I said, this particular measure we're talking about, the 45p band, was only a very small part. It was less than 1/20th, less than 5% of the package. We're freezing corporation tax, which was due to go up from 19% to 26%. We're keeping it at 19%, which is highly competitive. We're reversing the national insurance increase. We're bringing forward the reduction of the cut to 19p
all of
base
these
rate.
Measures put together bring the tax burden down,
That's right, they do.
Down to what it was in 2018.
That's right.
Much higher than it was under the last Labour government. Indeed, your top rate of tax is going to be higher than every month bar one under the 13 years of Labour government. Are you comfortable with that as a Conservative Treasury Minister, presiding over a higher tax burden than Gordon Brown or Tony Blair?
Well, I'm comfortable with the fact that this new administration has come into office and it is reducing taxes. We were going to see taxes go up significantly under the plans that we inherited just a few weeks ago, and we have rapidly reversed many of those plans. We've talked about the corporation tax increase, we've talked about reversing the national insurance increase. Those measures are far larger in terms of their financial value than the 45p rate. So this is a new government that is reducing taxes straight away. Of course we'd like to go further, but we'll do that in a way that is fiscally responsible, and that's why we're going to have the OBR forecast published in just a few weeks' time. And the purpose, by the way, of reducing those taxes is not just to alleviate the burden on working families, rich and poor alike, because these tax cuts we're going ahead with benefit everybody, all 30 million workers and many businesses as well. It's also to stimulate higher growth, and once we get higher growth, that increases the tax yield, the amount of tax paid in cash terms, which in turn creates opportunities to reduce tax. But we're going to be measured about that. We're going to do this in a way that is fiscally responsible. We think just now the measures we've announced are frankly the only ones that are affordable, fiscally affordable. So we're going to do these and we're going to get the economy growing and then take it from there.
You talk about what's affordable, and if we look back last week at what the International Monetary Fund said in this most extraordinary statement that they put out, a lot of people focused on what they interpreted to be the criticism of tax cuts there, but I was interested in one particular line in this IMF statement which said it criticised large and untargeted fiscal packages. Large and untargeted fiscal packages. Now, to me, that can only mean one thing. This enormous energy plan that could cost up to £150 billion, that could be relatively open-ended. We know that the government's committed to it for 2 years. We don't know the price of energy over the course of that 2 years. And of course, it's freezing the bills not just for the poorest, but for the very richest as well. Surely that's less fiscally sound than a £2 billion tax cut.
Well, so we certainly make no apology for the energy price guarantee. Just a few weeks ago, households were facing the very real prospect of their energy bills going up to £5,000, £6,000, even £7,000 per year. And on her second day as Prime Minister, Liz Truss took decisive action to make sure that can't happen, to make sure the average household pays no more than £2,500. That was a hugely significant intervention, protecting, as you say, every single family and indeed businesses in this country. It'll also have the effect of reducing inflation by 5 percentage points compared to what it would otherwise have been. And I think protecting all households, rich and poor, as you say, from those enormous energy bills is the right thing to do, because this is a government that stands with everybody, rich and poor alike. And I think, frankly, that energy price guarantee is probably the most significant thing the government has done so far. It's certainly far more significant. It'll do far more to help families up and down the country than the 45p issue, which is a relatively small part of what is a much bigger and much more important package that will help everybody and get the whole economy growing.
A universal price cap, a higher tax burden than any year under the last Labour government,
but a much
lower tax burden than was planned. Promises that were made. What's particularly conservative about this government?
Well, what is conservative is the fact that in the first couple of weeks in office, we've taken decisive action to prevent the tax burden going up, as it would have done under the alternative administration and indeed under the previous administration. Now, obviously we believe in lower taxes, but we've got to do that in a way that is fiscally responsible. We've taken these decisive early steps. The measures add up to, well, you can see the blue book yourself, they add up to very significant amounts of money in lower taxation. We're reducing taxes for everybody, rich and poor alike. That'll help people in the cost of living situation we're in. It will also get the economy growing and thereby help people earn higher wages in the future. We've taken decisive action to lower taxes. We've done it quickly. We've got a growth plan. The plan is welcomed by business organisations, big and small. And I think when we deliver that higher level of growth that we're intending to via the growth plan, it's something not just British businesses, but the British public will welcome as well. They will judge us by results.